Jadi hari ini kita bersama-sama di Galeri Petronas dalam acara Art Discourse atau wacana seni dengan tajuk Exploring the Mysterious Mind of Young Artists ataupun penerokaan ke dalam pemikiran misteri karyawan-karyawan muda. Jadi sesi pada hari ini saya akan menggunakan bahasa Melayu, majoritinya bahasa Melayu, tetapi ada artis juga, ada karyawan kita yang juga akan bercakap dalam bahasa Inggeris dan anda juga boleh bertanyakan soalan dalam bahasa Melayu atau bahasa Inggeris. Baiklah, sebelum kita bermula, izinkan saya memperkenalkan para panelis kita. Jadi Dr. Muhammad Fuad merupakan Ketua Art Center Studies di Fakulti Seni dan Seni Reka UiTM Shah. Seni Lukis dan Seni Reka UiTM Shah Alam. Saya ingat FSSR, Seni Lukis dan Seni Reka UiTM Shah Alam. Beliau telah bertugas di sana sebelum tahun 2007 lagi. 2007 bermula sebagai full time lecturer ya, sepenuh masa. Jadi sebelum 2010. Oh, baiklah. Jadi 2010 sudah 9 tahun lah, hampir 10 tahun sebagai pensyarah sepenuh masa di UiTM Shah Alam. Dan beliau juga sebenarnya seorang artis, seorang karyawan juga, menghasilkan karya dan sebagainya. Seterusnya kita ada saudari Jessieca yang berasal dari Sabah, juga dari UiTM, produk UiTM, dan baru-baru ini telah mempersembahkan karya-karyanya dalam pameran tahun akhir. Dan seterusnya saudara Fuji juga dari UiTM, saya kira rakan sekelas Jessieca, dan Fuji juga telah mempamerkan karyanya dalam show baru-baru ini. Sementara Ain sebenarnya senior kepada kedua-dua artis Fuji dan Jessieca. Ain hampir tamat pengajian sarjananya di UiTM Jalan Ottoman. Okay. Dan Ain juga telah beberapa kali kami jemput ke Galeri Petronas untuk mengadakan persembahan live painting, satu bentuk performance art. Jadi kalau nak tahu apa itu live painting, kita tunggu giliran Ain sebentar lagi. Baiklah, untuk pusingan pertama, sebab saya pun nak berhenti bercakap, saya mengah pula. Kita akan mula dengan Dr. Fuad dahulu. Jadi soalan saya yang pertama, Dr. Fuad, kita selalu dengar orang menyebut tentang young artis, artis muda, karyawan muda. Tetapi sebenarnya saya agak keliru. Apa sebenarnya definisi karyawan muda tu? Siapa yang artis ni? Kalau umur dia 50 tahun, dia baru buat work, dia baru buat karya, kita boleh bagi artis muda ke? Jadi mohon Dr. Fuad untuk mungkin boleh mendefinisikan kepada kita siapa itu yang artis atau karyawan muda. Silakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening. Before I start, I would like to say thank you to the organizer, Galeri Petronas, for inviting us here. I just came back from Kuching actually, so a bit of jet lag. So definitely, this definition of who is a young artist is a bit tricky because it depends on the context. For the individual kind of a perspective, maybe there's a certain definition based from a perception about who is a young artist. From maybe in a body of organization, contohnya macam bakat muda sezaman daripada from Balai Seni Lukis Negara, National Art Gallery. So the definition could be somewhere between 20 to 40. But now, because of certain understanding, now the age has been dikurangkan kepada 37, 35 for this coming bakat muda sezaman. So bakat muda sezaman yang contemporary artist is dealing with practices by young artists. So that definition from the Balai Seni Lukis or National Art Gallery now is defined below 35. So I don't know kalau orang tu 36 tu tak diconsider young atau dan sebagainya. But that is more on a technical issue. So certain people, maybe scholar or artists themselves, have their own interpretation of young. Who is a young artist? So that definition is by itself is a bit tricky, but it depends on the context.
That is interesting. Sebenarnya saya disuruh menggunakan bahasa Inggeris, jadi I'm switching to English. Sorry. That is interesting, and I think it's in almost all fields, social sciences field, it's quite difficult to categorize who is the young artist or who is a young writer. For example, I come from literature. We also have the same kind of argument. If that person just started writing at the age of 50, would you call him a senior artist because of his age? Which is, yeah, it's quite tricky. And then who comes first, young artists or emerging artists, and who are the established artists? So yeah, this definition, well, I think no one has really agreed at what is the best way to.
Yeah, I think that's the condition of how it is being lived by or practiced, because maybe scholars, they have their own definition or scientific kind of understanding. They have their own understanding of what is constituted to be young. Like I said, it depends on the context. So, a bit tricky but complex, but it depends on whether you define a 40-year-old person to be a young artist, or maybe some
Are you
people.
a young artist?
Yeah, I've been called still a young artist, even though I'm 43. It depends on the.
But you mentioned context.
Yeah,
And
the main context.
And drawing back to the title of our discourse today, which is about the mind of the young artist, probably we could, probably it's too early to draw a conclusion, but maybe we could explore the definition in terms of their thoughts. What would you say about that? I mean, how are the thoughts of, from your experience as a lecturer for more than almost 10 years, what is the level of maturity among the young artists, among the student artists that you have observed during your years as their teachers?
Again, because we are dealing with human, that sort of understanding of a definite, experience of how I see generalize the student is a bit tricky also, because it depends also from the background of the student themselves. Because some student like Jessieca, she is coming from Sabah, and her normal converse would be between English and Malay maybe, but more I think English, isn't it? Most like UiTM, most of the students are coming from the rural area. 80% are coming from rural area, like Gurun Kedah, Jeli, Kelantan. So their worldview or their, the lived experience is more of Bahasa Melayu, the Malays, and the rural area. So, so their understanding of art or reality itself is a bit different also if compared to Jessieca and students who are coming from, like say, I also have students from KL, Selangor, but mostly from KL. So their understanding about reality or their lived experience is a bit different. So how they would look at things, especially in their practice or art, is also different. Not to say that people who are coming from the rural, they have like a backward kind of understanding. I'm not trying to describe that in terms of that, but I'm just giving you a bit of the polarization of the thinking from the students that I have been engaging with. And if you know, UiTM also, it's more towards the principle of UiTM is more towards engaging with Malays, Bumiputras. So that's another definition by itself. So again, and going back to how these people think and work through their engagement in art, also, like I said, depends on where they're coming from. but not to say that people who are coming from the village or from rural area, they have like a backward kind of understanding because they don't have this good comment in English. But the understanding maybe is different because the place to where they are being brought up. But not to say that they are not intellectually, what do you call this, incapable.
So in general, we can say that in UiTM, the student artists or the upcoming young artists that's going into the industry, they come from all sorts of background. Yeah. So that is actually affect how they make their work, how they make artwork. Okay, in order to understand more of how these artists actually work on their artworks and what inspired their artworks and what is the process they have undertaken to come up with their artworks, we are going to ask them themselves. So the first up is Jessieca, who hails from Sabah. But interestingly, Jessieca, from the artwork, your recent artwork that I saw at your final year project show, you use monochrome images, and they are actually images of your kampong.
Yep.
So how come someone who's young and probably have lived in the city would come up with such an artwork?
Okay. First of all, again, I would like to thank you to the organizer, Petronas, for organizing this event and for giving me the opportunity to become one of the panelists here. Okay, to answer your question, how did I get the inspiration in the first place? Okay, I do a lot of reflections. As you said, you're correct. I grew up in an urban area. I've always been a city girl. So the inspiration came when about 2 years ago when I moved back to my father's hometown, which is in Papar. Specifically, the name is Papar. And then I was surrounded by all this nature and landscape. It wasn't really new for me. I've went back to my kampung a few times, but it stopped when my grandparents passed away. So my dad, he retired and he decided to rebuild my grandparents' house. So during my semester breaks, I would go back to that house, and then I found myself being in awe and completely inspired by the nature around me. So the landscapes that you saw in my artworks, it's the very same landscape that I woke up to every morning. It's when I see during the sunset. So it gives a sense of spirituality for me. So talking about my artwork, it deals a lot with the relationship between nature, landscape, and spirituality, and how the landscape brings about this feeling of yearning and nostalgia, and it's just something that is intangible, but it's an emotion that stirs within me.
I have a question. When you were back in your kampung, when you look at the nature and landscape and everything, does it struck you that I'm going to draw this, or does it come naturally, and then you're like, okay, I cannot contain this anymore, I need to do something with it?
No, actually it doesn't. It really depends, but if I was going to talk about my process, it's a slow, gradual process actually. It takes a lot of reflection in the things, because I think as artists, I think we're quite sensitive with the things around us. So we're quite observant. We tend to observe a lot of things. So something that you see every day doesn't necessarily mean that it will strike you as that immediate inspiration. It takes a lot of thinking and reflecting whether this is something that I really want to portray or not. Is there like a justification towards what I'm doing? So when I did those landscape, I mean, my lecturers know how the process went like. So it went through a lot of trials and errors. It went through a process of trying new materials and new mediums and finding what's correct. I mean, what's what fits and also what is relevant to your idea. So for me, it took like almost roughly, I can say, about 2 semesters in order for me to finally decide that this is what I'm gonna do.
And your works, they are actually very realistic as well. It's just that it works of the color. No, there were no colors because they are monochrome. I have another question, but I think probably Dr. Fuad could answer that before we go to you, Fuji. What does make a particular painting or drawing or sketch an artwork? I mean, because Jessica's artworks, I'm not saying that any Tom, Dick, and Harry could have done it, but you know, if someone, for example, an ordinary person like me would just, you know, just draw something, it wouldn't be an artwork. But because she did it, I mean, all the process and everything that goes into it, does that make it an artwork?
The question itself is a long, has been a long debate within the circle of the philosophy of art itself, and artists along the years, especially prominent artists, have been also dealing with that kind of a question: what constitutes an artwork, who is an artist, and etc. etc. That itself is also a part of the artistic engagement within certain artists, like Masyudi Shah, and then people like Martin Creed, who is coming today, also already here in Malaysia. So that itself is a long-term engagement. The question itself: what constitute an art or an artist? And again, like everything else, also depends on the context. If a scholar has their own definition of what is an artwork, then from a scholarly point of view, that particular work or artist is an artwork. Some people can go into a more sociological kind of understanding, whereby everybody who can paint or do painting or do drawing or do whatever, this color, and do it like constantly, can also see or being defined as an artist, as a artistic engagement, within an artistic engagement. Within the bigger scope, the industry, the art industry, there are people who become the authority of engage, pinpointing who are the artists, and especially these people, people who are prominent people who are in the industry, the galleries, the curators, the collectors, and the artists themselves, and they build up a kind of union amongst themselves that proclaim what constitutes an art or an artist. So again, it also depends on the context. So I'm just giving you a different definition of what constitutes an artwork or an artist. So, yeah.
There's no easy answer for that.
Like what constitutes a human being, like, see.
True,
It depends on the context, but like I'm describing you, and certain people, like the industry, has a bigger say on it. So people, even though they just make a line like that, like Martin Creed, just like that, somebody said that's art, because the industry says so.
The authority says
The authority, the curators, the collectors, the scholars, the writers.
You know what they're saying, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fuad, on that enlightenment. Yeah, because I remember I went to art museum with my sister, and she's not into art. She saw a bunch of, I couldn't remember who such as. I think it was a female artist, and it was just like a bunch of lines, like, you know, the rule exercise book, and she was. I think so. And she was like, "Do you mean this is artwork?" Like, duh. I was like, "Okay, you don't get it, so it's okay." But well, anyway, yeah, that's true. So the authority has, I guess, the stronger say in what's constitute an artwork. Thank you for that, and thank you, Jessieca, for that, for sharing. After this, hopefully we can explore more what's going on in your mind, probably what's next, or what's your hope and everything. But before that, we go to Fuji. Fuji, I really like his artworks that he showed for the final year project, in which he highlights the plight of his father, and then in a surrealism kind of nuance. But to share with us more, over to you, Fuji. Go
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Galeri Petronas, for calling me. Okay, this is my artwork. That story about inspired by my father. He's a migrant in Malaysia, assimilated in Malaysia, and then I try to tell about how he survived, how he changed his life within the employment everywhere, and he tried to escape from the challenge. And then there's some of you my artworks that every my artworks have that story, that behind the story, masing-masing ada cerita sebalik tu. Setiap satu painting tu ada cerita dia sendiri. Kalau kita tengok ada satu painting ini ada ubi, di mana menceritakan ubi ini adalah saya simboliskan kepada surviving. Macam orang dulu-dulu kita fahamkan ubi ni kita ketengahkan kepada macam mana ubi ni kita mencari di mana mungkin ada ubi. And then saya pernah this is about family. Pernah selama 30 hari family pernah makan ubi sebulan, and then how we survive, and then kami sendiri terlalu mengharapkan sesuatu, and then banyak pekerjaan ayah saya cuba dapatkan first dia datang ke Malaysia, and then dia datang ke Malaysia sebagai nelayan, and then sebagai rubber tapper, and then banyak sebagai promoter, and maybe sebagai dia pernah melukis di CM Central Market, which is dia pernah menjadi artis di street art, melukis portrait, and how we survive. Sebelum tu saya sebenarnya anak Jawa, ayah saya from Indonesia, Pulau Jawa, and tu nama saya macam tu, Noorfuji Anggara. And then my artworks tells this is my artwork bas sekolah. This is my mazes behind that, and then some figure and one figure. This tells about kehidupan sekarang. Ayah saya survive menjadi driver bus, and then dia sebagai legal menjadi driver bus, and then dia try to macam mana dia manage time dia dengan anak-anak, macam mana dia manage time dengan kerja dia. And then okay, ni new life begin. Ni cerita saya reflect kepada diri saya, macam mana saya menceritakan cerita ayah saya ini sebagai rubber tapper dulu, and then ada faktor dia duit Indonesia dulu, macam mana saya menceritakan pasal ekonomi dulu. Ayah saya pernah menceritakan tentang ekonomi Indonesia, which is dia pernah bagi tahu masa tu family, and dia ada pull factor dia, and push factor dia discussion trip. So like ni adalah saya simboliskan pada figure membawa bag, which is kita datang ke tempat orang, so banyak benda yang kita kena tempuhi, banyak benda yang kita kena try to menyesuaikan diri kita. Jadi itu sikit sebanyak saya bagi tahu pasal ayah saya, macam mana dia reflect dengan diri saya sebagai anak dia, and Saya lahir di Tanjung Karang. So that's all. Okay, thank you.
Saya ada soalan untuk Fuji. Jadi, Fuji ceritakan bagaimana inspirasi untuk menghasilkan karya-karya ini. Tapi yang kalau boleh Fuji kongsikan bagaimana proses daripada inspirasi, iaitu cerita ayah menjadi artwork. Kerana saya melihat Fuji menggunakan image yang komikal ada, kemudian banyak image-image elemen-elemen surrealism di situ. Bagaimana proses pertukaran itu, peralihan itu berlaku dari inspirasi kepada karya?
Okay, first saya suka naratif. First saya suka naratif, and then saya suka figuratif. Saya suka bercerita, which is I telling the story with subject. Okay, subject ni masyarakat ini simbolas kepada ni. Okay, proses tu sebenarnya saya inspire by. Dulu saya intern di Sangkring Art Space di Jogja. Dulu ada artis ni pernah cakap, Putu Sutawijaya pernah bercakap saya, ini proses itu melihat keadaan sekeliling, macam mana kita berasa empati. Karya kita sebenarnya terdiri daripada proses. Yang kita keluar tu dekat dinding tu, dari dekat dinding tu sebenarnya itulah produk. And then kita punya karya yang betul-betul karyanya kita fahami, kita mendalami, kita bagi perhatian kepada proses tu sendiri. Jadi inilah proses saya dulu di Sangkring Art Space. Jadi saya first dibagi task macam mana saya buat sketches dekat around Sangkring Art Space di sekitar tu, and then that in my studio. And then dapat pergi peluang dengan berjumpa dengan Heridono, jumpa Nasirun, and then jumpa Bambang Heras, and pergi fakulti seni di Institut Seni Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Okay, then kami sendiri 4 orang dapat inspirasi daripada situ, bahawa inspirasi sebenarnya kita berada di sekeliling. Macam proses yang sebut tadi, macam mana kita dapatkan subject matter tu, macam mana kita nak fahami subject matter tu sendiri. Macam kita dari fahami setiap orang ada fahaman sendiri masing-masing. Macam kita mengenakan figuratif tersebut melalui apa? Figuratif tersebut melalui apa? Tapi dalam keadaan yang logik lah, macam mana kita interpret tu sendiri. Okay, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Fuji, dan saya tertarik bila Fuji menceritakan tentang internship yang diikuti di Jogja itu. Dan saya lihat Fuji ada berkongsi bagaimana para intern harus melakukan kerja-kerja yang boleh dikatakan basic atau asas dulu, seperti sketching, melakar dan sebagainya, sebelum dibawa ke bertemu artis-artis ternama yang lain. Jadi soalan ini untuk Dr. Fuad sebenarnya. Tak dirancang tiba saya saya kena tanya lecturer ni. I need to ask the lecturer about this. Okay. How important is, I don't know, probably you would say very important, but I want to ask anyway. How important is mastering the basic? Kerana sometimes I think young artists, they are so eager to go straight into making the product. But how about the basic?
Like UiTM and I think like every art institution, the basic is important. Of course, it's important. Even if you want to be a chef, you need to know the basic, especially understanding your materials, then techniques, and maybe a bit of course, a bit of historical understanding and contextual understanding about the art scene and the history of art, and also the philosophy of art, the basic. So like UiTM, where I'm teaching, so we have that kind of engagement when the student start the first semester and in the foundation, doing basic drawing, like how to even hold a pencil and how to sharpen your pencil. Because some students, they are coming from STPM, not from diploma. So their understanding of sharpening a pencil itself is different from maybe students who are coming from the diploma. The most normal understanding of sharpening a pencil is using the sharpener. But once you go into the training, the sharpener is just like, okay, throw that in the dustbin. We don't use it anymore. Because we sharpen a pencil using pen knife or a cutter, whatever you call it, a pen knife or cutter. So that's the basic, if the Malay say it, kuda-kuda dia. And, yeah. And especially if people like want to know, have you ever seen a drunken master? And or karate kid? And so the kuda-kuda, you have to wipe in, wipe out, wipe in, wipe out. So those are the basic training, and it is very important. You're gonna know it when you start drawing or painting, etc. Like the kid, karate kid, he realized it. He realized the training when he started to go into the deeper training, the fighting, and so of course, and also mastering the philosophy, the history of art is very important. Yeah.
Right, thank you, Dr. Fuad. I have another question actually, but let's hear from Ain first. Ain has been waiting for her turn. Well, Ain is no stranger to Gallery Petronas. We invited her a few times. She is actually a multidisciplinary artist because she does a lot of things. She started with 2D paintings and drawings, and after that she did live painting, and now she's into technology, new media, and digital. So to know more, to explore more of her mind, of her mysterious mind. So Ain, let's hear from you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum, and thank you, Gallery Petronas. First of all, I think all of my works are actually inspired from scientific field, like more to biological field. I think it's because of my background I was a science stream student back then when I in high school. So I am really interested in like microorganism things, so that my painting are all like microscopic, zoom in. Like I really like you know, like explore the microscopic,
Like bacteria and things like that, okay.
and then like my subjects are actually my face that I capture by myself, and after I capture by myself, that I manipulate the photo into the painting. So yeah, and then for performance art, I think the reason why I really like doing performance art, which I started the performance painting with Gallery Petronas. First performance I did along with the Mak Yong, and I paint the Mak Yong dancing. And then the second one is painting with music, and the third one is painting with music and videos at the background, and interactive painting, live painting. So I think that's because of like before this, when I was a kid, I was a really active dancer. So I think since the beginner, I was joining everything. Like I joined silat, I joined dancing, I joined ballet, I joined gymnast, I joined a lot of things. So I think that's the reason why I'm doing multidiscipline art right now. So yeah, so now I'm focusing on new media art. Yeah.
Why do you go to into new media?
Because I think that, I don't know, just that I can't stop explore new things, because that's just what I like to do, you know.
Wow, looks like she's doing everything. I have another question, which I think you probably, after this I will ask Dr. Fuad the same question, but I want to hear
Okay.
from the student first.
Okay.
Okay, because now you're doing your master degree in fine art and
Yeah,
technology at
yeah.
UiTM Jalal Utman. Do you think that formal education is necessary to be an artist? And why? Whatever your answer is, why and why?
I do think so, because to be an artist, everyone can be an artist. Everyone can make art, but then not all of the artists can explain their works in like very intellect way, so like a very proper way, so that's the most important thing for the audience to understand about our art. So the artist itself must do an action to to explain their works more better.
So it's about giving meaning and value to your artworks
Yeah.
as well. Okay, thank you, Ain. So now we are going back to Dr. Fuad. I know you've been the person that have been answering the most, but well, that's to be expected, right? He's the lecturer. I'm going to ask you the same question. Is formal education and formal training necessary for an artist, for a young artist?
Coming from a educational background, which that has its own, agenda. Yeah, of course. Otherwise, we don't have students. But if you can somehow plot the normal practice within artists themselves, most of them are also coming from educational practices or educational backgrounds, whether they have gone through the normal degree or BA, but not so much on postgraduate PhD and the masters. But the normal practice is amongst most artists coming from BA background is a normal practice. But some, if you like people like Martin Creed, he's from Goldsmith. But people like Bruce Nauman, who is also a very prominent artist, he is a self-taught artist. Or the recent one, the recently deceased Robert Ryman is a self-taught artist whose background was a security guard. But now, if you have a Robert Ryman white painting, you can buy a bungalow. But he is coming from not from an educational background. But Malaysia here, the environment is most of the artists are coming from at least a BA background or degree background. Yeah. Not to say that there is no artists who are coming from self-taught or self-taught. Yeah. But the normal practice here in Malaysia, most of them are coming from whether they're UiTM, MIA, and now design. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dr. Fuad. And actually, I just asked the question. I agree that some degree of education, formal education or formal training is needed, because it goes back to where we learn the basic, actually, because after that you can get loose in the world and not get lost. Right, my next question would be to Jessieca. Do you think that the subject matter of your artwork right now, well, the most recent one I saw is very nostalgic, it's your kampong and everything. Would that be your identity? And the monochrome painting, would that be your identity? Or are you still exploring and still working on new subject matters?
Okay, I think as artists, we generally seek for growth. We're always exploring and seeking for development in our process. So I think that I'm not really fond of keeping stuff actually, but I realized the importance of keeping old sketches and drawings because I realized that there's an element of subconsciousness in it that I needed to revisit once in a while. Because at one point, you're not always inspired as an artist. There are times when the process leaves you stuck and it's going very stagnant. So I think that during the times when I'm stuck, it's important for me to revisit these old sketches and drawings because I think that it's an extension of who you are. It's an extension of my own self. So as an example, before I pursued my art degree when I was in my Asasi, I was always spontaneously drawing geometric forms and shapes. So I still have these sketches. And then now I know that my prior works, my previous works were mostly dealing with organic shapes, nature, and then dealing with all these textures and natural types of forms. And then, but I find myself doing a lot of geometric shapes recently. And then I feel like that's why it's important to always have this old sketches and drawings so that you're always reminded whether you want to stay in your comfort zone or are you hungry for something different? Do you want to grow? It's always a constant reminder and a question to ask yourself as an artist whether you want to stay. Is that it? Is that all you're gonna do? Or is it something that you want to grow out of? Or is it something that are you drawn to do something different? So right now I can say that yes, I'm exploring different things. It's not generally like how I did in my previous works. I'm exploring more towards geometric shapes and forms.
Okay, that's very interesting because it's such a huge departure from your last work. And then, but how do you know when is that exploration beneficial or when is it, this is a waste of my time, I shouldn't be doing it?
Again, art making is about try and errors. There are times when you find yourself like, okay, this is not the material that I want to use, this is not the subject matter that I want to portray. So you try and try until you get it right, until you feel that. I think it's always important for you to pay attention to your emotions whenever you're making something, whether is it something positive, is it something negative, is it something that feels right. So you would know, I think as a human you would know, you would feel a certain type of feeling whenever you're making these artworks.
Okay, you mentioned emotion, and I have another question on that because, well, I come from literature. I get that a lot. When I say I write, people was like, "Oh, mesti suka berangan-angan," that kind of thing. And I think people have that kind of misconception about artists as well. It's like you can just pick anything from air and then berangan-angan kejap.
Romanticize everything.
Exactly. And then and you got this painting, this surreal painting, and people thought there's no intellectual process in it. So how did that intellectual process come in play when you're feeling or being emotional? Where is that intellect?
Of course, I think there's when you're doing an artwork, as what formal education has taught me, it's important to always do research. So I think that among the art making process, sometimes it's natural for other people to like, okay, they just wake up and then pick up a paintbrush and start painting. But then I think what's exhausting is actually the research. Because I think there's a difference between being inspired and having ideas about visualization and how you want your painting to look like, and also ideas that requires you to think in order to justify what you're doing. So I think research is very important. Reading, it has to be the part of your art making process. You're not just like you said, berangan-angan and just like simply doing things. It's about understanding and reflecting and finding the justifications for your artwork.
And filling in the gap. That's why you do the research.
Yes.
So you know what people have been doing.
Exactly.
So what haven't been done yet. And you're going to
Exactly.
do that's
Yes.
not being done yet. Okay, I'm going to digress and go back to Dr. Fuad. Sorry, Fuji. Because what I just asked Jessieca was actually Dr. Fuad's area of research. So go ahead.
Okay, it's actually not my area of research, but
Sorry.
there has been one of my, quite big question about what's constitute reality, because now most of us are experiencing a kind of like a surge of how we look at this world is more on a functionalism kind of a thing. Everything has to be quote unquote research, intellectual, I mean more on the cognitive kind of understanding. People who are on the cognitive kind of understanding, they are like hierarchically, they are more higher. But people who are just making and doing things, they are like more on the psychomotor, they are like more on the below, on the hierarchy, they are on the below, on the, what do you call this, yeah, that's something like unvalue kind of things. When you see people who are doing skyscraper and people who are just cooking, you can understand that the huge gap between who's the upper and who's the lower, who's, you see. But being an artist is not just dealing with, or even experiencing the everyday life. It's not just about the cognitive, the intellectual. It's also have to do with the understanding of how we mediate between the intellectual and also our being in the world, I mean, doing things. Because surprisingly, most of the time, we are not conscious of what we are doing. Most of the time, in fact, most of the time. When I say, you're sitting on a chair, you see, when you're sitting on a chair, the experience of sitting itself, your consciousness of the chair itself seeps into the background. So most of the time, only a portion of the time where the cognitive is being used. But most of the time, we are engaging or being in the world, engaging with the world. Even, yeah. So artists, they do that.
Too philosophical.
Yeah, artists, they do that because when you're doing painting, it's not just especially when people, this the work is emotional. When you're talking about emotional, it somehow becomes like very low. But you're thinking intellectually or high, you see.
How do we break that kind of negative connotation?
It's not actually a negative, but it's more of how we now as a people or human are experiencing reality now, because the domination of reality is being dominated by this kind of always the cognitive, the intellectual kind of understanding of being in the world. But we forget that most of the time we are actually already experiencing and being in the world, and most of the time it doesn't have to do with the cognitive or the intellectual. So artists, when they paint and they do stuff, is dealing between those kind of phenomena, the intellectual and doing things. I mean, like our mother cooking.
So it naturally comes. It's just subconsciously comes. From what Jessieca said just now. It's a subconscious process, which is very interesting because I think that's what we wanted to hear today. Because that's why we wanted to explore your minds and also your mind. Thank you.
Yeah, the problem is when we're talking about expression, our understanding is like it's at the lower end of the human spectrum.
That's true, and that's why art, literature, social sciences, they are at the bottom part of the hierarchy when it comes to knowledge as well sometimes. Or I thought he was picking up the microphone, but well, that's okay. No. Thank you so much. Oh, that's actually quite a scientific way of putting it. Thank you so much. Now we go to Fuji. Fuji sebenarnya soalannya sama dengan Jessieca. Kerana sekarang Fuji mempunyai karya yang terkini ni, subjek matternya jelas ya, tentang ayah, inspirasinya dari ayah, dan kemudian bagaimana Fuji melakukan refleksi terhadap inspirasi berkenaan. Jadi apa yang sedang Fuji buat sekarang? Apakah subjek matter ataupun bahan ataupun inspirasi untuk yang mungkin akan memandu perjalanan seni Fuji yang seterusnya?
Nombor 1, inspirasi arah tuju. Okay.
Kedua-dua, mula dengan inspirasi dan bagaimana inspirasi itu memandu arah tuju.
Inspirasi saya adalah daripada sekeliling kita lah. Sekeliling kita, masyarakat kita. Macam mana kita evolve dalam thinking orang. Macam mana kita involve dalam perhubungan dengan orang, relationship. So, macam mana kita rasa dengan sekeliling kita. Itulah inspirasi saya, macam mana nak go, macam mana nak teruskan dengan art ni. So mungkin saya akan demi mencuba sebab art ni saya mulakan dulu melukis. Masa kecil-kecil dulu saya melukis anime. Saya selalu buat figure anime, Dragon Ball, and Naruto and macam-macam lah. And then saya mulakan dengan tu, saya dah rasa selesa sebagai melukis. And then saya bawakan kepada high school. And high school saya cuba praktikan balik, saya cuba teruskan balik. And then after that saya get into diploma. And final year diploma, saya dah rasa I want to get serious involved in art scene. And then sama degree and then sebenarnya ini saya cubakan ni sebenarnya ialah bukan setakat belajar je. Kita sebagai kita punya passion, sebagai kita suka buat benda tu, kan? Kita suka buat benda tu, kita rasakan bukan setakat hobi. Dan kita melukis tu adalah sebagai satu ekspresi. Kadang kita boleh bermasyarakat tu, kita rasa macam impress dengan keadaan sekeliling, dan kita buat ekspresi terhadap diri kita sendiri dan terhadap masyarakat lain juga. Itu dari segi pendapat saya lah, kan? Kita sebab benda ni ialah passion kita. Kita nak involve dalam art scene kita suka buat benda tu. And then sampai sekarang saya teruskan. And then inspirasi saya daripada artis-artis lain juga, yang artis lain, veteran artis lain, artis yang established juga. And then saya nampak mereka pergi, and then boleh pergi jauh. And then itulah inspirasi saya, macam mana kita nak mencuba benda yang baru dalam diri kita sendiri. Macam mana kita nak merasakan, kita berfikiran secara sendirinya. Kita seronok kita buat art, seronok kita melukis. Itulah. Kadang masyarakat tak perlu faham pun nak art tu apa. Jadi kita rasa kita cantik, kita appreciate, kita tengok art tu, this is important lah.
Saya setuju dengan Fuji. Bila Fuji kata masyarakat tak perlu faham, kerana pada saya penghargaan atau art appreciation tu ada banyak tahap. Tahap pertama adalah tengok, rasa cantik, cukup. Kalau dia nak appreciate lagi, dia boleh pergi ke tahap.
Boleh tanya orang tu, galeris tu sendiri lah.
Okey, saya nak tanya tentang artwork lagi. Ketika saya mula-mula melihat karya Fuji, siri yang semasa final year project tu, saya takut sebenarnya tengok, kerana saya merasakan ini saya melihatnya sebagai satu social criticism, kritikal sosial, dan saya takut ia akan menjurus ke arah politik. Tetapi apabila saya melihat kesemuanya, dan saya rasa memang tidak ada ciri politik pun, kerana itu adalah social criticism yang bersifat humanistik dan universal. Boleh Fuji komen?
Saya belum lagi nak involve dalam politik. Saya belum lagi into that serious particular things that benda ni, subject matter yang saya gunakan ini adalah macam tiang-tiang architecture, tiang-tiang industri, which is saya simbolas kepada kesusahan, macam maze. So kita boleh tengok dia apa memainkan watak secara bahaya, secara dangerous. Tapi dalam masa yang sama saya teruskan kepada figuratif, saya mempersembahkan kepada positive side. So macam mana kita nak feedback balik daripada mata masyarakat, kan, kita kepada membawa positive vibes, kan. Macam mana kita ingin menganjakkan memori kita kepada orang lain, dan orang lain, oh ini ubi, aku pernah makan ubi lah. Jadi macam tu saya cubalah untuk mengimplementasikan untuk masyarakat lain juga. Mana kita enjoy sama-sama lah dengan masyarakat. Itulah saya cuba ingin persembahkan lah untuk ni. Sebab saya pun baru lagi masih belajar lagi untuk membuat proses tu lagi, kan. Sebenarnya saya pun masing-masing buat sketches di studio saya di Kelang, berkaitan dengan Fish Haimi, berkaitan dengan Hiza Aris. Jadi mereka pun banyak bagi saya kata-kata semangat, banyak bagi saya macam mana saya nak trick sikit art pembuatan karya ni macam mana, kan. Tapi kita jangan lupa kita sketches tu penting. Okay. Basic penting.
Jadi saya melihat karya-karya Fuji juga sebenarnya adalah satu proses yang sangat intelektual, tetapi ia menghasilkan image-image ataupun final product yang boleh menyentuh emosi dan juga pemikiran lah pada masyarakat. Okey, terima kasih Fuji. Dan seterusnya kita kembali kepada Ain. We going back to Ain. Ain, you have chosen subject matter that is very scientific. You know, the bacteria, the cells, and everything. Will you venture into a different subject matter? Same question pretty much. I mean, what's next? I mean, are you going to stick with this or are you going into a different subject matter?
Okay, but I think for right now, I'm still into science-based, but then I'm not sure about what's going next, but for sure, everything that I'm going to do next is going to be like I'm going to do some research. I'm going to do all the theoretical process things first. But I think I'm stick to my style right now. It's not going to like so drastically change. So yeah. Actually, just like everyone here, I started my art things from realistic painting, but then by years by years, it goes more to like abstract, and then I don't know. Maybe after this, maybe it's going to be more like conceptual. I don't know that, but yeah.
It's an exploration. It's a journey.
Yeah.
I have another question that if you notice, lots of Ain artworks I've shown here, they are actually black and white.
Yeah.
Is there a particular reason for that?
Actually, I didn't realize that, but then I just realized that like when I'm doing my masters, so I did some research about that, and I realized that I actually have a chroma phobia, like brain phobia. Like I cannot accept certain colors. Chroma phobia is a situation that some people cannot accept certain colors. Like they're afraid of certain colors. Like me, I'm afraid of like warm color, like red colors.
When you say afraid, I mean, what does it mean? I mean, you cannot look at it, or how?
It's just that I refuse to see the color. So that's why my works I explore about how my brains react to when I see the colors. I interpret how my brains reacting to when I see the colors that I'm afraid. So it's like my videos that I made. It's more like I interpret that, yeah.
So do you see that as a limitation to your career as an artist? That fear for warm colors, is that a limitation for you?
I don't know, it's not that limitation, but that thing affect my life, my daily life. So it just, that is me. So it's not limited my career, no. That's my style, I think. It's gonna be.
Because it enables you to develop a different style. Probably
Yeah.
if you are not afraid of those colors,
Yeah.
your artworks will be different.
Yeah.
But well, since that happens, so you cannot do anything about it. So you have
Yeah.
developed your own style.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. And I see you're wearing all black too today.
I'm always in all black.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, thank you so much, Ain. Well, we are here at 4 o'clock. Would like to open the floor for questioning. So if there's any question for a member of the audience to our four panelists. So we have students from UiTM. We also have members of the public, visitors to the gallery. Welcome once again. Any question for our panelists?
Hello. Okay. Hello, my name is Noor Adlina. So my question is for Jessieca. So as we all know, like people like doctors or like engineers, they have their, contribution to the society. What do you think is an artist's contribution to our society? Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Can we go to next? Can we go to next question?
Yes, let's take question first.
Okay, my name is Fitri and I'm from Art and Design Faculty, fashion student from UiTM Shah. So this question is open for Jessieca. I wanted to know because we were like so amazed with your answer and your point of view in answering questions. So I wanted to know what kind of emotion that you feel when you are making your final collections, final project. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Any more question? No? Okay, let's have Jessieca answer the first question. But before we go to the second one, I would like to hear what Dr. Fuad said about it as well. Okay, let's, Jessieca, the first question about artist contribution to the society.
Like I said, because as a whole, as a human race now, we are like somehow our understanding of the world is being like dominated by this kind of functionalism. So when you're talking about contribution, what kind of contribution are you talking about? Is it reality, contributing of how we understand reality, meaning? Because most like scientists, they don't go to aspect of meanings. Empirical. They are more into empirical, how to solve problems or how to understand the world in terms of the system. But talking about meaning, is a part of how you could see as a contribution? Meaning. Have you ever thought of that? Meaning.
The pursuit
So
of
artists are mostly engaged in this type of understanding, meaning of the world, reality, as a human state, as a human, as how we engage with other objects or beings, and etc. etc. Power, politics, our spirituality, and etc. etc. So most artists, they contribute to the world other than the economy in terms of meanings. That is the contribution, the biggest contribution of artists. They are like sepupu or cousin of philosophy. And philosophy, they do, they go into language. Arts, they go into visual and sound and etc. etc. But both contribute to the world of meanings.
But meaning doesn't put food on the table.
And that's why I said, because we are dominated by a world that is functionalism.
All right, thank you, Dr. Fuad. We go to Jessieca. Same question.
I think
Oh, come on, you cannot skip. Okay, what do you think? As an artist yourself, as a practicing artist, what do you think your contribution to society?
I have to agree with Dr. Fuad, of course, because I think art is basically an artistic pursuit of, it's putting an artistic perspective on things, around you, the world basically. So whatever you see, the works that I do, the works that any artist do, like Fuji and Ain, it's a perspective that comes from them and off towards the things that they see. So I think as an artist, we tend to portray something that we see in our own creative way, and then the audience sometimes they would feel there's connected, a certain type of connection, or feel relevant. Again, it goes back to the meaning, to what the meaning part. So of course, it doesn't put food on the table, but I think it's more towards emotion and also towards something that is intangible.
Thank you, Jessieca. That's a really good answer. Well, I come from literature, so pretty much it's the same thing. I mean, you write books, you write storybooks, and then what does storybooks do? I mean, people read storybooks and then what? Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you so much, Jessieca and Dr. Fuad. And the second question, what kind of emotion did you feel when you were making the artworks for your final year project?
Emotions. Okay. Because I do my works basically in Shah Alam, so I couldn't actually do it in my kampung, but it's about my kampung. So again, it goes back to my idea, which is how the relationship between that particular landscape in my kampung and spirituality, and how, for me, making that painting is sort of a spiritual expression for me. So when I'm doing the paintings, I'm sort of in a meditation state. So I'm sort of meditative state. So when you're engaging, like Dr. Fuad said, it's all about engagement. Engaging with the materials specifically, because my medium is charcoal. So, and then throughout like I said, it was a long process of whether deciding what to do and also determining the materials that I wanted to use. So when I was in my drawing class with Dr. Fuad, and then he noticed during the times when I was very stuck, when I was trying out different materials like wet mediums, and it just didn't seem to fit. So throughout that process, I reflected a lot, especially during the time when I'm in my kampung, and the sketchbook that I had brought with me, which is a very small sketchbook, and then the medium that I had was a dry medium. It was charcoal and pencil. And then I tried to relive, because I wasn't in my kampung and I was in Shah Alam, I tried to relive that same experience by emulating the same color of paper that I had used, which is a yellowish type of paper, the sketchbook that I had used. And then also replicating the same tone, that same color on my canvas, and also using the same dry medium in order to relive the emotion and the experience that I had during when I was in my semester break. So if you're talking about emotions, it's mostly a feeling of awe. You're in awe of I mean, everyone has felt something whenever they look at landscapes and how beautiful it is. It's for me, it's a reminder of God's creation. That is why I relate it to as spiritual expression. That's why my artwork and my idea is all about spirituality.
Thank you, Jessieca. Did that satisfy the one who asked the question? All right, thumbs up. All right. Actually, I also would like to ask the same question to our two other panelists, because they are also artists. Jadi Fuji, apa perasaan Fuji semasa membuat artwork, terutamanya artwork yang untuk final year project?
Okay. Macam Jessieca tadi, dia related to material and artworks, and dia produce artwork, and then material tu berkait dengan cerita dia, berkait dengan dia punya jalan cerita dia. So untuk saya pula, emosi ni kita tak nampak, tapi kita boleh describe dia. Kita boleh describe macam mana kita nak, kalau sebagai artis, sebagai kita seni, kita cuba memvisualkan melalui subjek ataupun melalui secara lukisan atau secara technical, macam secara brush stroke ataupun secara how we communicate with our artworks, and then macam mana kita proses tu berlaku. So emotion tu datang, tapi kita reflectkan balik. Emotion tu kita dah tahu, emotion tu kadang sedih, happy semua. Emotion tu kita kan sebagaikan kita berbalik kepada positif balik, and then kita buat karya, tapi kita mengingatkan balik memori tu. Jadi emotion tu ada. So
Diluahkan dalam bentuk
visual.
Okey, terima kasih Fuji. Ain? Tak apa, Ain jawab dulu, nanti kita habis soalan sekejap lagi.
Okay. I think I don't really put my emotion into my painting or and others, because I think for my case is that like there's a lot of process before I do the final work, so all the process need to be like certainly it's all about like imagination, and I still need to do certain things that requires me to achieve the final works. So I didn't really put any emotion to the final works, and I think because my works, there's several kind of works. So for painting, I think there's not really emotion, but for sculpture, I think it's more to like meditation, emotion too, just like chess. And for performance also, I think the meditation emotion, because I do things that are similar to what I like to do in my childhood, that I like to dance, I like to research about scientific. So I think that's why it is a meditation thing for me.
So the whole process is very meditative, even though some of your artworks.
There is no such happy, sad emotion.
And your works, because they requires a lot of technical process, right? You're putting things together and superimposing this picture and that picture. So it's quite technical. So to put emotion, it's quite hard probably in that kind of. But while you're doing live painting, because that's you directly communicating with the artwork, that's probably more like emotional for you.
Emotional because it remembered me to my past experience.
And everything. Okay. Thank you very much, Ain.
Okay.
Do we have a question? Yes, please, Zalina.
Anybody else want to ask questions from the back? I will give you. Okay, I'll give you first.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I'm Arisha from UiTM Puncak Alam. My question is for Fuji. During all the time being an artist, how much money you have on the account now?
Bank mana?
Banyak bank. Adik, kalau boleh bacakan sekali lagi, mungkin boleh rephrase sikit. Boleh. Okey, tak apa, Fuji boleh rephrasekan jawapannya. Silakan.
Okey. Setakat ni bukan pasal amount account dan bank. So sebab bila kita buat karya, kita dapat berpeluang ke exhibit di galeri, and maybe itulah kita punya chance untuk kita tunjukkan kat orang, kita tunjukkan artwork kita, ability kita, and then orang beli tu is a bonus. It's bonus bagi kita. It's macam alhamdulillah ada orang beli, and then kita dapat macam establish nama kita dekat semua orang, kita boleh dapat kenal dengan orang. So itu depends pula daripada artworks, harga tu semua. Mungkin kalau kita nak tahu, boleh buat research pasal gallery amount semua kan. So mungkin ada certain gallery ni berapa, ini berapa, and how the gallery get percent from the artworks, and itulah.
Terima kasih Fuji, jawapan yang sangat PC ya, politically correct. Tapi sebenarnya ini berbalik pada seperti yang dikatakan oleh Dr. Fuad dan Jessieca sebentar tadi. Dia berbalik pada functionality. Kita menjadi karyawan, why do we become an artist? Kerana kita hendak menyumbang kepada sesuatu yang lebih tinggi yang kita tak nampak, yang intangible. Jadi mungkin tak nampak dalam bentuk RM1, tapi kita dapat faedah-faedah yang lain, insyaAllah. Hope and probably aspiration as a young artist. What is your hope? I mean, what do you want probably from the industry or from the institution that should be supportive or anything like that? What is your hope as a young artist in Malaysia?
Okay, talking about hope, I think that I hope young artists become more berani in doing new things. Like, it's not new things in art scenes actually, like what I'm doing right now. It's not the new things, but then there's not a lot of people, not a lot of young artists trying to like performance art and things. I don't know why, but I think I hope to see more to come up with that kind of multidiscipline art. Yeah.
To be more daring and accept the challenges to go into
like
different.
me myself, I think Galeri Petronas have given me such lot of chances because they support my every ideas that I want to do. They support everything. So yeah, thank you Galeri Petronas.
You're most welcome. Thank you Ain. So let's hear from Fuji, harapan sebagai karyawan muda.
Harapan as a young artist yang baru nak bermula, sekarang ni kita sudah banyak galeri-galeri termuka kat Malaysia, and then macam mana mari kita sama-sama yang artis ataupun kepada remaja-remaja lain juga ataupun kepada semua masyarakat, bolehlah kita memeriahkan galeri itu, datang mana galeri, and then kita walau apa pun kita kena sentiasa serius apa yang kita nak cuba dapatkan, apa yang kita suka dengan passion kita, and then semua orang boleh buat seni, semua orang boleh buat art, semua orang boleh melukis, tak kira artis ke siapa kan, boleh melukis, and then semua orang boleh impress, semua orang boleh express dekat kita punya apa yang kita rasa dekat melukis tu. Then harapan saya kita sama-sama kita try to enjoy art tu sendiri. Kita cuba macam Ain cakap tadi. So thank you bagi peluang kami sebagai young artist as a panel kat depan. Okay, thank you.
Sama-sama. Terima kasih Fuji. Jessieca?
I think my hope is generally more towards education. I feel that art education should be encouraged more. I mean, we grow up thinking that it's more towards prioritizing science and technology. So my hope is that the current generation, the coming generation is not afraid. They are, like Ain said, more daring. Maybe like in her context it's more towards trying new things, but for me is that the new generation would be more open to pursuing art and seeing it as a possible career.
Thank you, such a big hope. And last but not least, of course, Dr. Fuad.
My hope is I think this idea of what do you call this? Supporting the art world or the art scene and also criticizing it. That's my hope. Always has this, this engagement of supporting and also criticizing it. What makes the art scene more dynamic. If only support, no criticism, it will be like just one tone. So always support and criticize. I think that's more interesting.
Thank you, Dr. Fuad. That's also a big hope actually, because our art scene is quite quiet when it comes to criticism, right? We are like too nice to criticize, but sometimes we don't really praise enough as well. But thank you to all our panelists today. In conclusion, I think we can say that all of these three artists are young artists, as defined by Dr. Fuad earlier. They are all in their early 20s and are just like emerging into the industry. And I hope you have had a great time exploring their minds through their artworks and also through their thoughts and their philosophy when it comes to making art and studying art. And I think we all agree that formal education is essential for you to be an artist, because you need that basic foundation strengthened before you go out into the world. And last but not least, they hope that our industry and also all visitors and the public would support not just them, but also the industry as a whole. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time and attention. And I would like to pass back the mic to our MC.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hazwani and our panelists. I hope that all of us could benefit from the session just now. Dan sekali lagi, again, I would like to invite Puan Zalina to say a few last words before we end the session today, and then to deliver some token appreciation to our panelists.
Much have been said, so all I can say is thank you very much. Terima kasih. Please come to Gallery Petronas and please make this your contemplative space, your conversation space. And I do enjoy especially the younger talent students and not. Whenever you see me, let's strike some conversations as you go along the exhibition. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera. A very good day. Thank you very much again. And of course to our participating panelists.